Nick and Andy, massive North London derby this weekend. Tottenham against Arsenal. I'll be there for PST. Delighted to be providing analysis, reaction, and much more from on site for this massive derby. And Andy Edwards, I want to come straight to you, mate. Given some of the injuries and absentees piling up, particularly for Arsenal, as a Tottenham Hotspur fan that you are Spurs actually the favourites for this North London derby?
No. They need it more than Arsenal at this point. When you take into consideration the circumstances, the injuries with Odegaard, Rice out for this one for Arsenal, Spurs being where they are in the project right now, and have had a shaky start to the season, a win, a draw, a loss, three good performances, I would say, and so you can see the progression from the team from year one to year two under Postecoglou. But at the end of the day, all anybody cares about on the internet is, did you win every single game, and did you win a trophy at Tottenham? And so this is an interesting point in not only the season but the Postecoglou project, because this could go a lot of different ways. They show up on the weekend and they put in a really good performance, and they show not just progression, but they show they understand what this game means, I think, and the fact that they're playing one of the best teams in the world, arguably the second best team in the world, but I don't think anybody's touching City at this point. And that really gives them belief and confidence going forward if they can do what they've done in the first three games and maybe get a result against Arsenal, because the intensity of this game is always going to be there, and there's going to be a little desperation, I think, on both sides, and that's kind of strange to be 4 games into the season and both teams feeling that way, but just all the circumstances around it and how much it could mean. On the flip side, for Arsenal, a loss early in the season with City looking as good as they are. This is a real sliding doors moment, I think, very early in the season.
Yeah, it is early in the season, Nick, as Andy said there, but it is quite intriguing to have a big of a game as this early in the season. And we kind of saw it with Liverpool Man United before the break, how it can the narrative can change quite quickly if you lose one of these big derby games, and it's a very long season, but it can almost set the tone, right? It's kind of got so much extra weight in these games for fans of these teams, and just the attitude and the expectations of a whole campaign, that for me it's really exciting and adds that extra layer almost to this game, having it this early in the season. And I wonder for Arsenal, the pressure seemed to get to them a little bit against Brighton before the break, and the way that they reacted to some of the challenges coming in, obviously Rice getting sent off, just seemed to be a little bit rattled, which I don't really associate with them. They seem to have calmed down a lot under Arteta after some of the early years in charge, but they really need to keep their cool, don't they, in the cauldron of the North London derby this weekend.
Yeah, they do. Over the years, they have loved a red card, right? Whether it's been something you could draw up or not. Look, I think that this might be a really good scenario for Arsenal, not because of the injuries. It certainly doesn't give them a better chance to win or anything like that, but it's a chance for Mikel Arteta to flex what he does best, to show, hey, I've got a plan to deal with this. Also, it seems likely, Joe, you've mentioned the injuries, no Rice, no Odegaard. It seems likely that you'll both have Thomas out there, Partey, along with Jorginho. Yeah. And those are game controllers. They're going to turn this maybe into, or at least the midfield, into more of a fight. And maybe there's just enough for them to, each player having to do a little bit different than they're used to have to focus on their task at hand that takes the occasion out of it just a little bit. So I'm not telling you that I think they're the favorites or anything like that, but it's a chance for everyone in that team to put their stamp on something. We've seen it over the years when, say, City won a game without Haaland and De Bruyne and Rodri, where you've said, oh, wow, well, yep, you could have said they were going to lose, and they won anyway. So I think it's a really nice chance for them.
Yeah, and you can't understate the importance of Odegaard and Rice, because they've basically been ever present since they both joined Arsenal, and the way they make them tick, and just everything kind of triggers off of their movement and the way that they dictate the tempo. And I think, Andy, for Arsenal, it seems that the most sense is to start Jorginho and Thomas Partey, and then maybe have Trossard kind of start as a number 10 and have Martinelli out left and leave Havertz up top. There's some talk of Havertz dropping deeper, but I feel like if you just limit the amount of changes that you have to make, and just make 2 changes in the central area, Martinelli out wide, that's okay. You can obviously bring in Yuri and Timber into a holding midfield position as well. And then if Calafiore's fit, he starts left back, or Zinchenko left back. So there's, even though they are hampered by a lot of injuries right now and absentees, there's a lot of options there for Arsenal. And this is kind of a real test of their squad strength that they've been building for the last couple of years. And you've got Spurs, Atalanta, and Man City coming up in the next week. And we're about to find out just how strong this squad actually is.
So that's one of the things about Arteta that I think is actually one of his strengths, is a willingness to be flexible with the way that he sets his team up. For a couple of years, it wasn't fun to watch. It was downright defensive, and you know, they made teams really work to break them down until he kind of got some of the players in important positions. I think the holding midfield role, obviously with bringing Rice in, and then Odegaard ascending to one of the best midfielders in the world, allowed a real evolution of the way that they play. But I think this is going to look a little bit like the early days of Arteta at Arsenal, where they sit a little bit deep defensively because they don't have the trusty, reliable players to have the freedom to get forward the way that they typically play with. And so I think Arteta will be pragmatic in that, and I think it's probably going to serve them well in this game as well, because that's what Spurs have struggled with in the first 3 games. There's no team in the Premier League that has spent more time with the ball inside the final 30% of the pitch than Tottenham this season, and they've almost doubled the next closest team because they get the ball in so deep so quickly, and then they have nowhere to go. They have no chances. It's cross, 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 and I think with William Saliba and Gabriel in the middle, I think that's exactly what Arsenal want, and not really having kind of a true target man in there for Spurs. And so I do think it's not going to be the wide open, free flowing, back and forth kind of game that we're used to in the derby. I don't think, unless Spurs are just able to really stretch the field and pull them out of their shape. So it's, like I said earlier, at this point of the season, given all of the circumstances, everything is in play with this game. Spurs could win 3-0. Arsenal could win 3-0. They could draw 0-0. Like, everything is in play with this one. And I do think it's going to be about who handles, what's the word? Not the intensity of the derby on Derby Day, but just the importance of this one right now for both sides.
Yeah, it feels like a big time for either team to make a statement of intent about how this season is going to go for them. And Nick, when we look at sort of Arsenal again, Arteta signing a new contract ahead of this game for another 3 years. Just good timing, right? After a bit of a bumpy period, but this just kind of underlines where they're going, the signings they made, all the rest of it. And of course, you know, Raheem Sterling potentially making his debut for Arsenal. What a way to make yourself an Arsenal hero right away if you come up with a big performance in this game. I'm
glad you said that, because he is who I wanted to talk about. I don't know that he's going to start, but I know he's the sort of player I want with his 1v1 and his aggression at wanting to take people on. I want to see that against Spurs. I want to challenge them on that left side, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that way. I think his signing, though, the reason it jumped into mind when you said that is it was a backing of Arteta. They're paying him probably a ton of money. They're bringing him over in a way that says, you know, we don't really buy older guys. Not that he's super old, 29, right? But this isn't necessarily our profile, but the manager knows him. The manager wants him. This is what we do now. It's an argument we made last January when we said, hey, if you're for real, go buy a center forward. Go break the books and just go bring that guy in and get after it. And so I love the signing. I love what that says, the extension for Arteta. It's funny to see them, even though Emery might have been this guy, have their Wenger again. And it's starting to feel that way. I know he doesn't have an Invincibles run underneath him, but tell me you don't think that this couldn't be 15, 20 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's heading in that direction for sure. I mean, the progress year after year they've made, and now we're about to see with this busy stretch of games coming up, the squad they've built, can it withstand a little bit of pressure they're feeling with injuries and absentees? Andy, in terms of absentees, obviously Mickey van der Ven, his fitness status for Tottenham, he's so important for the way they play. It looks like he's going to be fit enough to play in this game. I mean, that's crucial, right? And I think if Solanke's back as well, you know, he looked sharp, could quite get off the mark in that game against Leicester to start the season. But again, if these players are fit, this just probably for me swings the pendulum more in Tottenham's favour. Maybe not to win, but to get something from this game. And with the players Arsenal have out, it just really does level things up in terms of who's going to win this one.
Yeah, to me, for this one, Solanke, a bit more important than Van de Ven, actually. Really, really impressed with Radu Dragusin the last game when he came in and played against Newcastle. Obviously, they didn't get the win, but displayed a lot of the qualities that Van de Ven has shown there at the center back. Maybe not quite the speed and the wheels to get back and recover defensively, but I wowould say Spurs probably have one of the better third center backs in the Premier League at this point, and considering it wasn't so long ago they didn't have one or two good center backs, then this is a huge step in the right direction, and obviously gives them a chance anytime to take the field. The reason I say that Solanke is the more important one for this one is that attack has been frustrating, anemic, just makes you want to bang your head off the wall when you watch them just pass the ball around the penalty area, not make entry passes, not make runs in behind. There's no one there to hold it up. It's all about how quickly we can get forward. And when teams are sitting back defensively the way that they have against them to start the season, and we saw it a lot last year as well, it's not like this is anything new and has taken Postecoglou by surprise at this point. I do think he is that player who unlocks a lot of things. I think he makes Son better on the left wing because he holds the ball up and he takes attention off of him. And whether it's going to be Kulusevski, Johnson, Odegaard, whoever it is on the other side, it just gives them more space to operate and more time as well. And I think you'll get better scoring chances that way. And so there is a lot more to come from Spurs this season. It's just, I think there's a small matter of Postecoglou. Can he get out of the way just a little bit and let the pieces of what's there kind of come together in a natural way versus everything having to be almost micromanaged and done to a T the way that he wants it.
Yeah, just maybe don't force it quite as much as he has done so far. That's the key. All right, I'm going score prediction 2-2. I think this has been quite a popular score in this derby over the years. So I think it's going to be level the playing fields of Arsenal's absentees for this one. And I think, if Tottenham score early, it's going to force Arsenal to come out, leave more gaps, and it should be back and forth. But we know how risky Spurs play with their high defensive line. And I think the likes of Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, and others will get a lot of chances in this one. So I'm going for 2-2. Andy, what are you going for, mate?
Yeah, same sentiment, but I'll go 1-1 in the end.
Nick?
I'm also going to go with 1-1.
All right, draws all round for the North London derby. PST will be there on Sunday. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest how to watch information, analysis, reaction. We'll have you covered at all angles for a massive game. It always is, but it feels like it's even bigger happening this early in the season. So Tottenham against Arsenal, it's coming right up.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.